evening and welcome to episode 6 of the Above Average Joe's podcast.
One half of a good time. 6, buddy.
That's right. And tonight we have our good pal Ross, aka Ichabod, from bands as Smoke Break, The Mystics.
And I wore my baseball shirt as approved by Geddy Lee.
That's right. Huge Rush fan. He's still in a little mourning. Yep. We all are with the death of Neil Peart. But you got a gig coming up here on Friday at the Turvey Center Lounge with Smoke Break, I believe.
With Smoke Break, yeah.
Which also has a wonderful guitarist slash keyboard player slash pretty gray-haired gentleman by the name of Matt, who's in our bunker.
Well, he also plays mandolin and harmonica, and
he plays everything. Skin flute.
He's the man of many talents.
Oh,
he's not chiming in on that one.
No, he's staying pretty quiet back there. He must be afraid to chime in. Maybe he lost his voice, which wouldn't be good for a gig weekend.
Went too hard on the skin flute.
That's probably it. So what do we got on today's show, Heath?
We're going to change it up. I want to talk NFL first.
Because you want people to stick around for...
No, just because it was pretty damn interesting.
It was. Well, it's
and there's
championship
a couple other
weekend.
Things. So we're going to talk, of course, about the championship stuff. Super Bowl, primer, all that jazz. A couple other things I kind of want to bring up. Antonio Gates retired, which I thought he had already, but is he the greatest tight end ever? Some numbers that maybe back that up.
So far,
maybe. Arguments to be made, good or bad. And then also Luke Kuechley retired from the Panthers, kind of last minute, all of a sudden kind of deal. 28 years old, middle linebacker, and he was a complete stud in his prime. This is the year after Andrew Luck does it, so yeah, I kind of want to pose the question to both of you and pick your brains, and Maddie, of course, as to whether or not you think this whole retiring in your prime thing is going to be a lot more common. Is it going to become a trend? What's the deal? So anyway,
stick around.
Lots of NFL stuff that just super intrigues me. So anyway, that's
got some CFL, some rider news, some re-signings, some workout information.
Yeah, calm before the storm, though.
Yeah, it's still pretty quiet time for the CFL, but we'll keep you updated.
And because we're in that same vein of football, I wanted to talk a little bit about the XFL. I know everybody kind of mocks it in a sense because it failed once, but
still football to watch.
At the same time, there are some CFL-related repercussions, questions around what's going on there, and we're going to maybe discuss that a little bit and just kind of play with that. So, it's coming up. February 8th is the kickoff, so little primer,
should be good.
Little thought-provoking conversation, hopefully. So
got some NHL talk, some women's 3-on-3 at the All-Star game. Is it a gimmick? Is it a good idea? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about new and old formats of the All-Star game, and then some OVIE news.
OVIE.
Who doesn't want to talk about OVIE?
Probably Sidney Crosby. He's back too, and
maybe
he's doing
Gretzky.
Well, so we'll drop a mention in there. And then because we talked about it last week, some UFC stuff. You guys made some.
We're probably going to talk about it longer than the match lasted.
Yes. A Cowboy couldn't last 40 seconds.
Yeah, that was
they
a real
always last 40
wrong
seconds
pick.
in my house, but that's a whole other game they're playing. Anyway, Connor, Cowboy. Shocker, expected. Next moves a little bit for what's going to happen next and how that may unfold. Sort of my thought process. I've got some thoughts on that. I'm sure you guys do too. We'll share all that for you. So,
and a little MLB, some sign stealing and other fiascos and misbehaving. We'll talk about it all. But let's just start with the show.
If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right?
That's right. So we're starting with the NFL, you say?
Seems to be the MLB way, right? So, yeah, let's talk NFL. So, where do you want to start? Let's start with Tua.
Aren't we going to start with Odell?
You want to start with Odell? Okay, let's start with Odell. Did you guys see we watched the national
We
championship
did. We
game
watched
here.
it during last week's episode.
Yeah. And we were done. We wrapped up. Pardon the expression, maybe. Odell went into the locker room, the LSU locker room, his alma mater, and he was caught or seen with thousands and thousands upon thousands of dollars, which he was handing out.
He was handing out on the field too, wasn't he?
I believe so. But it was very obvious inside the locker room. He was handing out cash directly to these amateur players. NCAA, they hate that crap.
They don't like
So
when their
there's an
players make money.
investigation going
That's
on.
against the law.
And then to top things all off, not only does he get his alma mater into trouble, they were smoking cigars after a championship win, which apparently, well, you can't smoke indoors, right? Like how many places, this is just a known thing, right? It's a public building, whatever. You can't do it. Well, lots of players, did you see the shot of Joe Burrow?
It did.
Looking like a stone cold pimp on that couch, arm out, big stogie. Kid's a winner. Loved it. Epic shot. Anyway, the cops came in and they were giving these guys grief over having a cigar,
Smoking in the
smoking in the boys' room. Little Motley
And
Crue.
for
Love it.
their service, what did they get?
They got a smack on the ass.
Just like
smacked a cop on the ass.
Just like she was a woman in the 50s.
He made it rain. Like, he
made it rain.
Made it rain.
So, long story short, his antics got him an arrest warrant issued for him. For, I don't know, I think it was simple, maybe simple battery. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's now been rescinded. But at the same time, there's video of him actually smacking him.
But what's the lesson we've learned? If you've got money, it doesn't matter.
Sure.
The NCAA is
But
going to have to come
we
to
talked
Jesus.
about Antonio Brown last week and his bag of candy dicks. OBJ smacking cops on the ass this week, right?
They're still
Michael
in a different
Thomas
category.
had lots of outbursts after the Saints were eliminated on social media, saying pretty stupid stuff, but not quite as far as the other two. But is there something fundamentally wrong between the ears of wide receivers like T.O., Randy Moss back in the day? They're a little eccentric, but these guys are taking the cake, or the bag of candy dicks, whatever your sugary treat.
That's the evolution of the game.
It is?
They're the rock stars.
It's true.
They're the
That's
rock
part of it.
Yeah.
It could be the headshots.
There's less headshots.
Yeah, Beckham's
T.O.
taken a
used to run
few.
through the middle back in the day when he was across from Red. Those guys took headshots. So that's explicable.
Yeah,
You
and
can
then
explain
add
that.
today's society into it, though,
There you go.
where they're larger than life.
Oh, yeah.
When they can force trades.
Well, where they don't need at this point, like for a guy like Antonio Brown, you don't need the game anymore. He's probably
his
making
own
a
brand.
shit ton of money off his social media
He's his
by
own brand.
people just feeding into it.
He's now a social media influencer.
Yeah.
You're a
So,
millionaire.
so he becomes famous for being famous,
Yes,
almost more so than famous for being a good football player.
correct.
That's the way it's going.
That is the Kardashian way.
So where does it end, and how do you build teams when
It's
you've
harder.
got guys more interested in their individual profile picks
That's
than
why
they
those
do in
but
terms of their team chemistry?
those teams aren't the ones who are winning though.
Now they all need to make just $50,000 a year. Damn it.
All you need is
Sorry.
270 yards of rushing, and you can win any football game.
Apparently. Anyway, I hate to keep bringing it up, folks, but I think we're 3 weeks in a row on Antonio Brown doing something stupid in the media that we comment on. Now we got OBJ. I like talking NFL, but I'm getting a little tired of this constant barrage
Well, there's
of
only going to be more of it.
stupidity coming out of some of these guys. Can you just maybe keep it on the straight and narrow? Just for a little bit?
There's no consequences.
Well, there you go.
Consequences.
When there's no consequences-
Until there's consequences, unless Jerry Jones can
There's
take
gotta
a
be
player out and
consequences.
have back 40 and have him shot. There's
Consequences.
Mike Tomlin's going to make Antonio Brown sit in the corner.
Yeah.
You think about what you did. I'm taking your toys away. He came out without a job in the end because he melted down, but he forced his way out of there.
Yeah.
Got his damn money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Well, he
when
didn't
the
get
player
his
makes
money.
more
Well,
money,
and that's why, like, going back to the Steelers, I really like the Le'Veon Bell thing where they made him park for a year.
when
We'll
the
trade
player,
you, but we're gonna make sure you know we run this.
Hey, and when the player makes more money than the coach,
Yeah. Well,
what do you do?
true.
What do you
True. Anyway, enough about wideouts.
Let's talk about
Because
hurt
Divas.
quarterbacks.
Hurting quarterbacks. Well, one that's not so hurt anymore is Tua. He declared for the draft. His agent, I believe his agent's Lee Steinberg, not Rosenhaus. Think it is. Anyway, Matty could maybe check that. Nah, no big deal. Tua is going to be healthy enough to possibly throw at the combine.
What is your question?
My question is
Should he?
everybody's got Joe Burrow as the consensus one.
Yep.
If Tua does well at the combine, he was supposedly, like, preseason
Right.
rankings, he was the number one.
Yep.
Can he climb back to number one?
I think it'd be tough. After the season
Because
that Burrow had and the playoffs that Burrow had, I think a workout isn't going to be enough to move him back to first.
there's still that injury risk with Tua that it could reoccur. It's the Bo Jackson injury. I know medical science being way better. It's probably not as big of a deal as Bo, but
True.
still lingers, right? Still hovers. But is there a chance?
But there's always a chance. There's for sure. If somebody's looking for a Lamar Jackson 3.0 and they think it's Tua, then
Possibly.
well, so if Cincinnati thinks that that's a better route for them to go that direction, then he could move up there with a good workout.
So,
But I think it's highly doubtful at this
without
point.
being healthy, I didn't think there'd be any way he could crack the top 5. He's borderline in that 5 to 10 range for me if they feel comfortable with the injuries. Maybe lower if they didn't feel comfortable with the injuries, but he's going to sneak back up in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I know there's some talk with that
Quarterbacks
whole
always do.
first overall, blah, blah, blah. And we saw it even this weekend, right? Alex Smith, Aaron Rodgers, the Peyton and
Ryan Leaf.
Manning and the Ryan Leaf saga, how that all plays out. I don't think Tua or Burrow is going to turn out to be a complete bum a la Ryan Leaf
No.
or train wreck. So maybe he does sneak up to even number 2. So anyway, I just thought it was really interesting that this guy somehow was not supposed to make it back by even mid-season of next year, and now they're talking he's going to throw at the combine. So
That's good though.
pretty neat, but it'll give us a lot more meat and potatoes to go through for our NFL draft podcast. We'll break it down further there, but anyway, moving on.
Young guys retiring.
Yeah, young guys retiring. So with Kuechly, hell of a linebacker. I'm pretty sure he would have got way more publicity had he been in a bigger market.
Yep, definitely.
He is somewhat underrated in terms of media attention. He sure as hell didn't get as much as he should have, but he's the new wave linebacker nowadays, that sideline to sidelines, not the big burly guys, fundamentally sound in every way, shape, and form, intelligent to no end, right? So
Yep.
he's retired now at 28. Andrew Luck retired at 30 last year. Basically, they've got 5 to 7 more. Well, quarterback probably maybe more than 5. But, I mean, Kuechly could have probably played till he was 34, 35
So do you
at a
think
pretty
these
high
guys
level.
are making those decisions on their own? Because, like, I think back when I was 28, like, hell no, like, I'm not going to retire.
The
Well,
medical
recognizing
science is
the
telling
medical-
them that you've made enough money
Exactly.
if you want to enjoy the rest of your life.
But do you think
So-
somebody else is telling them that, or do you think they've made that decision on their own?
I think somebody's obviously they've had discussions, but I don't think you make that decision unless it's your own.
Well, and knowledge is power. They have access to a
Yeah,
lot
they know more than they did back then.
information as to
For sure.
the fallout of repeated blows to the head, or
Oh,
how many
absolutely.
times can I get this shoulder
Absolutely.
built?
Look, it's your health.
Yeah.
It's your health.
Do I
So-
want to walk in my 60s?
Yes.
But like
Yeah.
Patrick Willis retired early by a lot of standards. He was a stud, 30
that's
years
the one
old.
that
He
hurt
packed
me.
it in, you know.
And
And
then the next year they lost Chris
Borland, yeah,
right
he was
after.
24. He played
Yeah.
1 year.
No, it's becoming more and more common.
So I think personally, I don't blame these guys at all. I mean, to each their own. There's a lot of money on the table. That's a hard thing to walk away from. But if your heart isn't in it and you're really
But it's
worried
not
about
like
your
they're
health,
not making good money.
Yeah.
But there's been, well, and that's exactly right. So
It's
you get
it's
to that
do
second
it's do you
contract,
want to be a
cash in.
baller or a real baller?
Yeah.
None of those guys are walking away short of cash.
No, exactly. So you used to play a little more.
Gronk left. Well, how old was Gronk? 29?
Really? That young?
He's 30.
Yeah. So,
But you look at his injury history.
but same thing.
It's
He probably could have
crazy.
played. Well, Antonio Gates just retired, and he's what, 57? I seriously
Three
thought he.
more
I
years,
thought he.
he'd have
I thought he
double dipped. He'd had a
retired 2 or
pension
3
check.
years ago. I did. I thought he retired 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, he was retired. I believe they brought him back. He wasn't officially retired, but they did bring him back.
Off the couch.
So
Off
it
the
just
couch.
it depends. It depends.
But
I guess what kind of career you've had, how many shots you've taken,
For
what's your injury history.
and some of that is the position too. You don't see some of these guys coming and retiring as corners or wideouts. They don't take maybe sometimes quite as many blows or even as severe blows
For sure.
as a middle linebacker
Absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
Kuechly or Andrew Luck
Absolutely.
as a quarterback.
Or either any of the line.
You know,
Even as well protected as quarterbacks are, it can go horribly wrong.
yeah,
with a
I mean,
quarterback, for sure.
exactly. So my next question would be, I mean, Antonio Gates, and we'll get to him just here in a little second, but a guy like Kuechly has insane numbers for the 8 years that he was a pro. Andrew Luck has some pretty deadly numbers in terms of per game averages and things of that nature. Are they Hall of Famers though?
No.
No.
So if this,
Kuechly, I would consider.
you would?
Just like
Luck,
a
I
Barry
would not.
Sanders, just
Yes.
like a Barry Sanders. But Luck, no, he had more years in him.
Well, and playoff games and stuff
Yeah.
is a more of a measurement for
a quarterback.
right?
Absolutely.
So if it becomes a bit of an epidemic in 10, 15 years from
Yes,
now,
yes, the
you're
Hall
gonna
will have to.
the Hall's going to get
They'll
some
have to
guys
change
in.
their criteria.
Or they're going to get some guys in
Or maybe
that have been waiting a while.
maybe Jerry Kramer can get in.
Maybe not.
Or did he already finally get in? I can't remember. Didn't he maybe get in the last couple of years?
Well, but more the point is you're going to start kind of having guys that are going to end up being first ballot that would never have been first ballot. You're going to have guys getting in that have been denied a long time or
I
or
think
would
we're
have
still-
traditionally waited a long time because they weren't quite there,
Possibly.
So having a long career is definitely a huge asset in terms of getting into a Hall of Fame.
Is it?
It helps.
It
Is
can
Kevin
be.
Glenn going in the Hall of Fame?
It helps. Kevin Glenn?
I think he would end up in the Canadian
As a team builder, yeah.
team builder.
As a team builder.
You really
But part
should,
of
though,
part of the
like,
criteria, and you see this a little bit, not to change sports too much, but like Eric Lindros went in, but he was the de facto best player on the planet for 3 years, basically.
So then the criteria
Neither
would
of
then
these
have
guys
to be
been
as
the
well you were playing, you were a dominant force.
right.
Absolutely, yeah, that's a huge.
So I
part
mean,
of it.
Kuechly, you could
Barry
argue was he was the definitive number one linebacker in the NFL for 2, 3, 4 years.
Yep.
Okay, you can.
Yep. But
justify
Andrew
it.
Luck was not the best quarterback in the league.
No, he wasn't
and-
even top 5. Unfortunately, the era he's in, and some of the guys that were around for the bulk of his career, he wasn't. He wasn't in the conversation for
I
top
remember
5.
when Andrew Luck retired, like he made a bad choice of retiring so publicly. Didn't he do it like in the stadium, and then they're taking their jerseys off? And
Well, yeah, there was a lot of backlash because it was
kind of
it was a very
embarrassment.
blindsided.
Yeah.
Wasn't
to
it
the fan
right
base, it
before the-
blindsided him, but
Just shortly before the season, wasn't it?
it wasn't too far in front of the
Because
season.
then they had
no.
to
it was
kind
just
of
a
go with
bad PR
Brissett
move. Yeah, it
and
was just a
Right.
bad PR move.
But at the same time, he was your franchise quarterback. For you for quite a while.
Yeah.
I don't know that you make him hurry to make the decision. If that's when he became
No,
comfortable
for
with
sure.
it finally, then so be it, right? So, I mean, that team needs maybe a little more than a quarterback,
How many
but
years was Rodgers behind Favre?
3.
3.
years, yeah.
So
Kind of a fair ball.
now we're talking Hall of Fame. Antonio Gates just retired.
Yes.
Chargering.
Got
Got
but
her in there, buddy. Okay. Was he the best tight end ever?
no,
Okay.
but right up there.
Dude has a lot of touchdowns,
Yeah, I think Gonzalez
a
is...
lot of yardage, a
think
lot of
Gonz-
catches.
I think Gonzalez
You
is-
like Gonzalez better?
Yes, but up until now, like, you got to seriously look at Gronk. You're going to have a couple guys here that we got to see this weekend that in a few years you're going to have to seriously look at. Like, Kelsey's breaking all kinds of records, and I think Kittle's just going to break those ones.
Kittle's
So-
got the season. He's got the highest yardage ever by a tight end in a season. Set that last year. So yeah, you're right. There are some serious contenders coming along. So,
But
in
I'd
terms
still,
of
I'd
right
still,
now,
I'd still say Gonzalez.
You'd still
Just
say
slightly,
Gonzalez?
slightly above him, but yeah, it's like 1A, 1B kind of thing.
I'm going to be a total homer, and because this guy's a Charger, I'm going to counter swing the other way.
Oh, well,
Shannon Sharp.
yeah, it's right up there too.
It's like Bobby Orr changing hockey. Shannon Sharp changed tight end. Him, Kellen Winslow started to change it, but
Charging.
at the same time, Shannon Sharp completely changed the tight end position.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a Bronco, and I love him.
Very well argued.
And a Raven.
And a Raven. Yes. Yes.
Those are, I'd take any of those three on my team.
Fair enough. So Antonio Gates isn't the best tight end ever? You've got Gonzalez. I got Sharp.
I got none.
Nothing? No choice?
No choice. I got none.
You're going to defer?
I defer.
Matty? He's going to say George Kittle. No,
No,
who got the catch? Who'd Montana throw it to? That's your boy.
The boy.
Anyway,
Yeah, no,
well,
honestly, you argue well for Shannon Sharp.
Shannon Sharp is. Would you want to meet a guy in a back like out of all
No.
these guys?
No.
Who would you want to meet in a back alley?
Well, he was just.
I'd take
ripped,
Shannon
eh?
Sharp with me, but I wouldn't want to meet him. I'm not saying he's like
I
going to
wouldn't
do
wanna
something,
meet
but I
anyone.
mean him pissed off. He plays to win. Dude's got edge. I love it.
I'd like to know what they're doing in the back alley.
Whatever, man. It's all good. Speaking of charging, let's talk about Mr. Rivers. Sold his house.
Don't we have a tidbit?
Timeout tidbit? Yeah, we do. Sure. I got one.
I'm just trying to follow the
The
script.
Titans kicked a field goal this weekend. It was the first field goal that they actually kicked
I did not know
since
this.
week 15, and the first one that they had made since week 13.
That's crazy.
You know your offense is clicking when you don't have
to kick field goals.
field goals.
Wow.
Their efficiency was off the chart.
Wow.
I thought they handled themselves pretty well.
Yeah. So,
So
No.
Phillip Rivers, what's he
yeah,
doing?
charging.
All right, he's charging his
the
way to
hell
Florida.
Out of Florida. Yeah, all the way to Florida. So there's speculation like he wants to play for somebody else next year. He's moving to Florida. He has 9 kids. He actually said in the article. Because I'm like,
He's gotta
what's the
save that
over-under
tax
on
dollars.
10? But you tax dollars. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And if they'll all wear like those old man white Velcro shoes, there's plenty of those for sale in Florida.
That's right.
Dress your kids
He's
up.
got 9 kids.
9 kids. Yeah.
Same mother?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
I think
he's
they're total Mormons
He's
or
a,
something.
he's a super religious dude.
Wow.
So-
Like
The
John
kind-
Chick.
Yeah, the kind that don't believe in birth control.
Yeah, baby
still like to
mamas
do it.
everywhere.
Well, he knows how to pull out of San Diego.
It's the only thing he's ever
That's the only
pulled
thing
out
he's
of.
pulling out of.
It's the
He
only
was there long
time.
enough though. So anyway,
That's
there's
a clip.
There's speculation that the Bucks, maybe the Finns, are gonna offer him a pair of white shoes and let him come down there and play a little bit. And I'm not too sure. The Finns are going to be drafting high enough, and I think if they've got a shot at getting a guy, and they've got multiple first-round picks to move up and get a guy, so if they like Tua, why not them? Like
How
they got,
long has Rivers been in the NFL for now?
Well, it's a while now because
I
he
believe
came
he's
in same.
38, so yeah, it would be every bit of like 16, 18
Oh,
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
long enough.
Still charging.
Still charging.
I just
so
learned something tonight that he's still playing.
he's probably a Hall of Famer. He'll be the next.
This year it was
generation's Dan
easy
Marino.
to miss that he was playing.
Yeah. Yeah. it didn't go that well, but there's
did not.
potentially a rebuild going on there, so I'm all for it. Keep charging, boys.
Keep charging.
Keep charging. Anyway, moving on to Andy Reid. It's the longest. Let's talk. Well, do you want to talk about the divisional games? Are we talking Andy Reid?
Let's talk Andy Reid.
Okay.
Because I'm pretty sure there's a really good slide for this.
Is there?
Well,
You got that up, Matty? You like that? Yeah. Andy Reid must have a chip on his shoulder, though. He must be angry.
Well,
He's
he
gonna
needs
go
to win.
He's going to go to Florida. He's going to want some guac on it or salsa. I don't know. Anyway, 50 years between Super Bowls appearances. That's a long time
It
for
is.
a fan base.
It's almost like a Winnipeg Blue Bomber.
Almost.
Or a Toronto Maple Leaf.
Yeah, or, yep. Touche. Or Toronto
But
Maple Leaf, yeah.
It's kind of funny how...
Talk about this.
It's kind of funny, though, like kind of making fun of him with the chip comment, though, too. But it's funny how Trump is offering fast food at the White House for when teams come and visit. And Andy Reid all of a sudden buckles down in the playoffs.
Got to win that.
Hey? It's like, yeah, I got to get in there. I got to get me some double
Same
Big
physique,
Macs.
so
Wow.
same diet.
I think that's why he's buckling down.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yep. I don't even need coupons. They just go in and give me all I can eat. Let's talk about the AFC Championship game. Tennessee KC.
Tennessee.
Was it everything you thought it would be, Matty?
No,
And-
I was
and
hoping
more?
for them to dig a little bit more of a hole before they started coming back.
Yeah.
Play a little more with them?
I think the Titans finally ran out of steam.
I said they're going to have to let Tannehill throw more than 14 passes like he did the game before in order to win a game. But I didn't think they'd bail on their running game. Like Henry had some actual decent numbers in terms of average. And they were throwing in situations they probably would have normally ran in previous games. Casey's defense is okay by the numbers this year rather than disgustingly bad like they have been. But I mean, Casey's the defense all of a sudden means you've got to do things completely different.
Sometimes
I didn't
coaches
think that
overthink.
should dictate it as much as it did, but I mean, they played much better defenses along the way to get to that game than KC's. So maybe overthinking it a little bit, but
It happens.
Patrick
Who was
Mahomes will get in your
favored
head.
to win that? Was Tennessee favored to win that?
No.
No, KC was.
Casey. It went pretty much how it was supposed to.
Yeah. Well,
Patrick Mahomes took it upon himself to.
and
How
is
do
that
you
a
not
case
tackle?
of-
How do you not tackle him on that long run? That was
No-
bad tackling.
No idea.
That was bad tackling, and you knew the game was over at that point.
Yeah, that
Tennessee was tired.
showed a little, well, and maybe a little lack of heart. Like
I don't
like
know.
Matty said last week, right? If you see a quarterback sitting there and you can crank him, what do? Of course you crank him, right? If
Every
Mahomes
single
wants to
time.
stand up and run like that, and you can get a licking on him,
Mm-hmm.
I'd find another gear. Especially to put a licking on a guy like that. Like, who's their backup?
I don't even know.
You don't need to know because he's probably not going to keep that game on the rails for them, like Mahomes, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd have him dead in the water. So I don't know. But in watching that game though, with KC getting in, like Mahomes got in their head.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Especially
when you
after that play.
completely change your identity and you start overthinking and over-engineering your entire game plan, which it looked like they did, why?
Yeah, you're
Somebody's in your head. It's like
yeah.
the old Tom Brady, Peyton Manning matchups where Manning would do crazy crap in a game against the Patriots. He would never do in a game against anyone else. Why? Because Belichick would get in his head or Brady would be in his head.
No, it's kind of the rope-a-dope thing. It's impressive the way KC came back, under that deficit. And I was kind of hoping, the Packers would do the same thing.
Yeah.
Just take.
They
But
tried,
once you
but
get
they
up
tried.
10-0 and you're a running team, it should favor
Oh,
you, right?
You
Should.
would think. Yeah,
Pound the rock.
you would think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Tennessee's got some questions that they're going to have to answer as to their quarterback situation next year. But they got some good young receivers. Like I said before, they're fundamentally pretty sound and pretty deep and
Why don't they sign
talented on their
Tannehill?
lines. Well, they'll probably sign Tannehill, but he's probably more of a bridge quarterback. Like if
Like a
you've got a
Brandon
roster,
Bridge?
Brandon Bridge? No, not quite. Close, but not quite. But I mean, you look across their roster and you watch them play this playoff run, this stretch drive even, and they're pretty fundamentally sound, well-coached team.
Mm-hmm.
But what are they missing?
Another receiver.
Little experience at receiver, but they got some young guys
Yeah.
that got talent, but they need a trigger man. You need a trigger man. Now you just switch quarterbacks in that game.
Oh, yeah.
Tennessee in a walk, right? Like, not saying you'll get another Patrick Mahomes, but you need a franchise passer.
Well, they're not picking high this year.
No, but we'll get into it in our draft special that we'll put together in a month or so. But there are a couple of names I think they could target in the draft and put behind a guy like Tannehill on a bridge contract and maybe come out shining. Russell Wilson's a third-round pick. Worked out all right. So they can be found, right? So anyway, I expected KC to win. We all kind of did. Who picked Tennessee, though?
I did.
I didn't this week. Yeah, Matt
Matty
did.
did. He figured he needed one turn.
Yeah.
I picked him. Kyle picked him. You picked him.
Yeah, but the next game I got wrong.
Yeah,
Wow.
I picked Cowboy too.
We're talking.
We'll get to that.
We'll get to that, buddy. We'll get to that. It was a good 40 seconds, though.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. Well done, buddy. Anyway, let's move to the NFC, the No Fun Conference, if you're a Packer fan. And just for note,
Wait, what?
Packer fan,
He's in a
Packer fan.
Packer fan sandwich.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Packer fan sandwich. I'm the middle of the Packer Oreo here.
Unfortunately, it went pretty much how I thought it was going to go in my brain. My heart said that Rodgers was going to pull something out finally this season. But no, it pretty much went how not the 200 and whatever 4 yards from Mosfet there, or whatever his name is.
Mossert.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
Mosfet.
Horse fed.
You're just screwing up his name on
You sure?
purpose because you're
Are you
mad
sure
at
he's
him.
not Barry Sanders?
It's like that's like when your mom's pissed off at you. She calls you every other name in the house before she says yours.
But seriously, like, he's a good, but he's not that good.
Look at the Shanahans and not the. I mean, there's a lot of parallels with the Shanahan zone cut system. You've got an endless list of names under his old man in Denver. They're 1,000-yard guys.
Yeah, I don't think it really matters
They
who you
crush
put
him
the
out,
ball
man.
in their hands.
And I mean, he's a good back, but yeah, maybe not like superstar
Right,
yeah, no, it's the
Todd
system,
Gurley
it's the
kind of.
schemes, it's the
But I mean,
blocking, it's
He's a pretty good
George
back
Kittle.
in a pretty damn good system.
He's a good blocker,
Yeah.
that George Kittle.
George Kittle was an animal, and his post game was awesome.
That
Did
was
you
tough
see his
to
shirt?
watch.
No.
He came with a T-shirt of a shirtless Jimmy Garoppolo on his T-shirt. He is. He's a pretty man.
I think it was
a pretty man.
signed too, eh?
It was signed too, yeah. Well, I mean, pretty easy to have a sign anything from a teammate, but on top of things, I mean,
They were the better team. They were
well,
just
yeah, they
the
were.
better team.
and after the game, and I'm sure you two Packer fans, amongst your tears and weeping, probably saw Rodgers when he said, "The window is open."
Mm-hmm.
They've got a fairly young team in a lot of ways. Got some good pieces.
Mm-hmm.
They've got, I believe, I looked this up actually right after the game because he said the window's open, and I'm like, you cheap Green Bay bastards better buy some players next year because you can't just do this draft. They'll just draft.
Oh,
If
they've
you're
been-
close and you
they've
got
been
a
trying.
35-year-old quarterback, the window's actually closing.
Yeah,
Oh, for sure.
Time is now.
How
For
much
sure.
longer does he have?
Exactly.
2
so
years.
say even he plays till he's 40 at a high level. 5 years is
No, they have 2 years.
it's not that big of a window even, You need to start thinking about winning now at all costs. Mortgage the future. Because when he leaves, It's a rebuild till you find the next
Well,
guy.
Antonio Brown's available, I hear.
Well, hey, if you can freeze his attitude, and Lambeau, you may do that.
They wouldn't take Randy Moss. They're not going to take Antonio Brown.
Well, levels of desperation kick in, but Randy Moss is an infinitely
But no,
more
it's
character type guy.
that
than
offense.
straight cash.
It is not all Rodgers' fault. Yes, Rodgers had a poor year, but they really had Devontae Adams and Aaron Jones. That is it.
Yeah.
That is
Fair enough. Having said that,
it.
you've got Geronimo Allison, who's a free agent.
Yeah, goodbye.
Jimmy Graham, who should just be
Goodbye.
cut. Save the money. Scantling and St. Brown.
Goodbye.
They're young, though. They're still on rookie deals, but they're not developing.
You need somebody to
was
take
it
away.
Kumaro and Lazard?
I like Lazard.
But they're not. They'll both, maybe one of them will replace a guy like Cobb.
Exactly.
But where's
You
the
need
other
a
guy?
number two.
You need a number one.
We have a number one. His name's Devontae Adams.
Little undersized, but you need a jump ball guy. Put it this way, an end zone guy. Jordy was an end zone guy.
Need a big man.
You need a big man. So that being said, I don't know how you go get one, but go get one.
I agree.
If it's by trade, by hook,
Who?
by crook,
Where?
I don't care.
What?
But get one.
Where?
Pay for
Who?
it. Trade for it.
With
Find
what?
a guy. They got first round picks. Where was your first round pick from last year? The great Mr. Gary, who's supposed to be this pass rusher and everything else.
Injured. When he's played, he was pretty good.
Pretty good. First round picks aren't supposed to be pretty good. They're supposed to be damn good, if not awesome.
I agree.
So you've kind of
But first
built
rounders,
up a cupboard of solid players.
you shouldn't have to spend a first rounder to get a receiver.
Well, I think San Fran would have won even if it was at Lambeau Field yesterday.
With
Well,
those two teams, yes.
With running the
Yeah.
ball down their throat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, honestly, there
Minus
isn't
30,
really
whatever.
anybody
They
of
still
note
would.
on the D line of the Packers. They're good, but there's nobody where you're like, holy shit.
Kenny Clark played really good this year.
Kenny Clark, J.J. Watt, Jadeveon Clowney, Nick Bosa. Like every team that's been in the playoff run to this point has had a name. Outside of the Patriots,
Yeah, we have
and
the
the
Smith
Packers.
brothers.
linebackers.
They're not linebackers.
Like a true blue, put your hand in the dirt, every play D lineman. Anyway, I think they're a little under-equipped on their D line. Spend a little, get somebody. If you're running a 43,
if you could only just spend it and fix the problem, Jerry Jones would have won 85
Listen,
Super Bowls by
the
now.
Packers have $32 million of cap space in 2020. They can free up a pile more by getting rid of Jimmy Graham. Roughly 8 more. If you walk into free agency with that quarterback, with that system, with those pieces, and that kind of payroll to spend, you should be able to go get a couple guys.
Who's a free agent this year?
I really hope they don't chicken out.
Who's a free agent in the wide receiver market?
Well,
all-knowing one.
you not necessarily have to go that route either. I mean, you could go get an Odell. He's got a big contract, but you can fit his contract in. Julio Jones, there's even talk of him.
I'd take Julio.
Right, but what's it take to get him? Who gives a shit? 3 firsts, it's worth it. Because him across from Devontae with Rodgers, all of a sudden you are just that much more of a contender. You have to go for it. I'm not saying for sure it's Julio, but I mean, you have to go for it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
The time is now.
Yep.
So I really hope
We're also going to have to draft a quarterback one of these years,
Yeah.
worry about it when it's done.
says Miami.
You know, the 2 years after Manning retired, being a Broncos fan, I didn't care that they didn't have a quarterback. I mean, you care because you want your team
Do
to
you
win
care
all
now?
the time. Yeah, well, we got a quarterback.
Do you?
Yeah, he'll be good. He'll be fine.
I've heard you say that about a lot of quarterbacks.
But after you, I get a little sentimental and my heart gets involved. But at the same time, you guys are spoiled because you went from Favre to Rodgers. Not everybody does that.
Yeah.
But if you win a Super Bowl, you get a couple years where you're just like, yeah, but we won a Super Bowl.
Unless
I wish we'd
you're
win a
New
lot more
England.
friggin'
Unless you're
Super
the
Bowls.
Patriots.
I wasn't tore to pieces when the Broncos weren't killing it the year after Manning was gone. You knew why they weren't killing it. If your team has a guy like him on the roster, taking snaps like Rodgers, and you're not killing it, that's more troublesome.
It's troublesome. Yesterday was troublesome.
You guys Packers need to spend money.
Still one victory away from the
Yeah.
Super Bowl. Oh, there's a bunch of other teams that would gladly take that.
True.
Oh yeah,
but
Final Four.
And really,
Four's always a good
for
thing.
how I thought they played all season, I'm
If-
actually surprised they got that far.
well, and my question to you guys is, and do you think Rodgers will ever play in another Super Bowl?
If it's not in the next 2 years, no.
Yeah, I agree with that.
2 years. The window is
I
2
think
years.
if they don't
I think
spend
this-
some damn
Well,
money,
yeah, no, you have to be, as Brendan Taman would say, all in.
straight cash, homie. Spend it.
But even then, a team that does not make, right? I think this Final Four, this is probably the closest he's probably going to be.
Yeah.
So-
Or do you think Rodgers was just snake bit? He does not do well playing in San Fran.
Well,
That's true. 0-3.
That is true too. So I remember watching
He's 11-5 in his playoff
the year
career.
that the Packers won with Brett Favre the Super Bowl. The game they played the 49ers in the final. And I remember Favre had to call timeout because he was laughing so hard. He's just such a gamer. And it was like red zone. And he called a timeout because he's just laughing so hard. Brett Favre. They won. Green Bay won. They went to the Super Bowl. But yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, San Fran's got Aaron Rodgers' number.
Do you think this is something that's in his head from not being drafted by them?
I don't know.
Right.
Russell Wilson's
Yeah.
never won in Lambeau, so
That's right.
what does it mean?
Yeah, I don't know. There's some kind of psychological
He played
hurdle
in
that guys have.
Wisconsin.
I'm just speculating, but
So maybe it's, I don't know, maybe there's that connection. I don't know. It's weird. So,
anyway.
Super Bowl.
Super Bowl primer, though.
KC and
San Fran.
San Fran.
Maddie, are you going first on the picks? Because we obviously,
That should be pretty easy.
yeah.
Niners.
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 You're going Niners?
Niners.
Niners.
NFC.
That too.
NFC represent.
I really was torn. I was thinking about this actually for a long time. I think Mahomes is just that goddamn good.
I think they're actually probably going to
Then
win,
it's
but I'm
like,
picking.
oh my God, how
San
could
Fran.
you pick against this guy? He's so damn good. And then you look at San Fran, you're like, they're just bullies.
Yep.
They're monsters. And that front four, like they're rotating guys in
Oh.
and they're getting on a guy like Rodgers who's got a lot of that same skill set, like flick of the wrist, throw it 30 yards
And
on
a
a
pretty
roll,
good O-line.
and he can move around and pretty good O-line.
Oh,
And he has a better run game
tore it
too.
up.
And they just swallowed up
Oh,
every lane that Rodgers could try to get out of or do anything in. If they play that way against Mahomes,
I think Andy Reid's going to outthink himself
wow,
or out-eat himself.
or out-eat himself. Yeah, it'd be a buffet in Miami just getting smashed. But no, I have a hard time picking against Patrick Mahomes.
It's tough.
But in terms of an entire team and how well coached they are and the background even of their front office, GM, ownership, all the pedigree of the 49ers and having guys like Steve Young around and Jerry Rice around, which they showed in the pregame, right? Having guys like that around. John Lynch is your GM and he was a damn good player, won some stuff too, right? And Shanahan and his pedigree and his dad's there in the back corner telling him, like, how do you bet against an entire program's pedigree? And then you got Andy Reid on the other side who just can't seem to come through when it matters.
Gets another shot at
It's
it.
Mahomes versus an entire organization is what it is. I don't see him doing it.
It'll
I
be
don't
tough.
see him doing it. Jimmy might have to sling a little, but they are
He
going
might have to
be,
complete more than 6 passes.
Well, fair enough, but I mean, they are just going to
They
be
didn't have to.
flat out bullies. It might be a boring game, 35 handoffs, but whatever. If you can bully them, bully them.
yeah. Well, that's football.
And I'll go back to Brian Burke used to say it: the team with that has the most real men wins.
Mm-hmm.
So watching the Niners do what they did. Like,
Oh,
anyway,
They play with some truculence.
some truculence. Yes.
Nice.
The word of
Very
the
well.
day.
Yes.
Nice.
The word of
So-
That was Berkey's
why,
word.
That's why we're above average.
Hearing all of you guys say that San Fran,
San Fran.
it makes me really want to go against the grain because that's how I am and pick KC. But the fundamentals, the X's and O's, and I was a Jerry Rice fan as a kid growing up. Hardcore. Actually, as much as I was a Broncos fan, and when they cut Jerry, I'm like, you can't cut him. You can't cut the GOAT. You can't. So I never really forgave him for that, so that's why I went full scale Broncos.
It happens.
So I have to
sometimes.
go San Fran. I'm going to go San Fran. We're all going to hopefully be right, but
Respect the tradition.
yes.
Wow, this has been a really.
And they didn't
long
videotape
NFL
or
segment.
anything else to get their advantage. So anyway, we don't have much on the CFL. Kind of that lull, the calm before the storm, unless you're in Newfoundland.
Oh,
Those poor bastards, man.
no kidding.
That's a lot of snow, man.
Wow. Absolute wow.
They can make a lot of snow, man.
Yeah. No kidding.
If they
No
can find their
kidding.
cars.
But bringing
insane.
in the Army means something pretty
Yeah,
major went
that's
on.
crazy.
So
Crazy.
anyway, let's talk CFL. We re-signed our long snapper, and not that most places or most teams or even most fan bases even know who their long snapper is.
We do.
Who's the long snapper of the Packers?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
See?
some guy.
But when it comes to the Riders, most Rider, like if you're a real Rider fan, you'll know his name. So Jorgen Hus.
From
1 year
Saskatoon.
deal. 1 year deal. So anyway, he's played 6 years for the Riders. So I hope he gives us at least 6 more. He's top quality individual. So
Yeah, good kid.
like it. Love it. 1 year deal. I don't know why not more. He's a pretty proven commodity. I don't think you have to worry about him. But whatever. O'Day's doing O'Day things.
Maybe it wasn't his choice for the 1 year. Maybe it was.
Maybe that's all he's comfortable with. So
Exactly.
that being said, we also have a situation on our old line. We got Clarkey all locked up in the middle.
Yep.
Labatt, Shepley, right? So there's some pieces there. Bladdock and Blake, they're both left to sign. And just looking at it, neither one of them can walk in and just be like, okay, I'm going to sign. I'll get a starting gig. There's no starting gig that's easily or readily available.
Not unless you're a tackle.
I don't think we can get them both back.
I'd like to see Bladek back.
Me too. But is he going to come back and re-sign after being a starter for a while to potentially end up on the bench?
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll get
That's a
promised
that's a
that
tough
he
one.
has a shot at being the starter.
We can't promise him that.
Why can't
Can
you?
he beat Labatt out?
Possibly.
Possibly, but he'd have to do it. But you can't promise it
You can promise that he has the opportunity to win the job.
because between him, Shepley, like Bladdock, Shepley, and Labatt, only 2 are playing.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make a promise to all 3.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody's pissed off. And
Maybe
and
it's
they're-
Labatt.
He's
He's 36.
you can't
Got a
have
big
him on.
price tag.
Big
but
price
he
tag.
still gets it done.
Well, he only played half the season last year.
You might just need them all, but I mean, Blake can come in and play guard too, and he's going to be a lower price tag. He's an older guy, so I mean,
I don't know.
I
like the younger
think,
guys.
I think Bladdock is going to explore free agency. He may come back here if he doesn't find something, but there's plenty of places that could probably A, pay him what he wants, and B, give him a spot. They could guarantee him a spot. We can't guarantee him anything. So,
Well, let's see what O'Day has in store for
yeah,
us.
if he can pull off both those guys before free agency, holy cow.
That would be great.
Oh, Deo. But food for thought, Rider fans. Anyway, speaking of, well, maybe not O'Day. Sorry, bad segue. I'm good like that. We had some equipment issues before we got going, so I had an extra drink. So maybe that's all it is. It's like, ooh,
We always have
cross-eyed.
equipment issues.
Hey, everything starts looking better. It's like being in the Q Bar bar. 8 drinks in. The Riders reached out to Ricky Ray on any interest he may have
Yeah.
in terms of coaching.
Being the quarterback coach.
Yeah.
Says he's not quite ready.
Yeah, and do you think he would do Saskatchewan first as a job
So
before Edmonton or? Toronto?
Well, I think he's really good buddies with Moss.
Not true. Yeah.
He's
Dickinson's a
he's
respectable
he's
guy.
Sprinkle of Jesus's best friend.
Oh, that's right too. Yeah.
They're chums.
Yeah.
Is Ricky Ray a guy we needed to even explore, though? Not saying he'll be a bad coach. Not saying he's a bad guy. But we just hired an OC who was an ex-quarterback. We don't really need a quarterback coach.
That is true.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So Ricky Ray's going to come in and coach receivers,
Yeah,
DBs. Like, what's he going to coach?
That
I know
that
you would
hire
want him
just
to coach
keep him on the
quarterbacks.
payroll. If that happened, that would just to keep him
Maybe just his
on the
knowledge.
payroll.
Maybe.
And how much does that happen with this coaching cap?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That kind of is a hindrance,
Yeah.
right?
Maybe he
So-
just wants to be the Cody Whisperer.
the Cody Whisperer.
Ooh.
Yeah. Jesus loves you.
Yes, I know.
Yeah. Shack's open.
Hit the seam.
If you build it, they will come. All right, I might be drunk.
All right.
No, I'm kidding. I know why you would ask, because he's a quality individual on every level. He knows his football. He's played a long time.
Oh,
but
absolutely.
we're not in the market for a quarterback coach. Just not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it was
he'd come
a
with good
little bit
price
odd
tag.
in that regard for me. So never say never, but yeah, maybe you get him in the building. But
So
the
does that
coaching
mean
cap
Walsh
is a real thing.
is out?
I don't know that he's out, but is he really in?
Well,
With Jason Maws in the picture, you don't need a quarterback coach. He's got it. He has got it. And his quarterbacks have always done well in his system, in his setup, when he's calling plays, all that. So I don't think you need a quarterback coach. And with the coaching cap, if you can not bring back a positional coach because you got a coordinator that can handle those duties, it puts a little more into all the other areas for you, right?
for sure.
So let's talk NFL workouts. Ricky Ray, we're done.
We're done, Ricky.
Yeah, he's the chip truck.
Give him the
Maybe
heater.
he's going to Miami. He's going to deliver right to Andy Reid's room. I'm here.
I'm here with your Frito Lays.
He's getting a bonus. Could he bring him across the border? Would he bring him Canadian chips, like all dressed chips?
the better ones.
Andy Reid
Does
might
Lay's
not even
make an
know
all
there's
dressed?
all dressed chips.
I guess they'd be Ruffles.
Ruffles. Trump would give a tariff on it if he tried to get him over the border.
NFL workout tracker.
Yeah, nothing, a whole lot really hasn't changed. I did hear a couple little things on a few guys, but Braylon Addison seems to be, that's all done, right? He's a Viking. Deshaun Amos, also Green Bay, yada, yada, yada. Willie, tough one with Willie, but I think, I said last week, I thought it was a little bit arrogant to say, oh, my tape will stand for itself. But at the same time, you're kind of like, with today's day and age, if anyone was interested, if they look at the tape, and a good scout can look at the tape and see a guy playing the right way. Chris Jones came out and kind of gave him a bit of a shot that it's way more physical. He's going to have to play more physical in order to stick down there. So,
yeah.
I mean,
It's a whole new world down there.
it's all in how Willie potentially would be used. It's always in how you use your Willie, boys.
Yes.
Hey?
Always.
All right. Since we were talking about Phillip Rivers' pullout game,
Speaking of pulling out, Cameron Judge.
Cam Judge, I think he's coming back.
Yeah.
And he's going to get paid. Oh, get paid, young man, get paid.
It's a good signing, though.
Yeah, we're going to have to sign him. He's coming back. I don't know what he's worth, but I'm such a homer on Cameron Judge that I don't care. Just back the truck up, fill it, take it to his house.
That's a franchise player you want.
Yeah, he's a linchpin for your defense for a long time. So
And a Canadian.
I have a feeling the sticking point is going to be the term. If he thinks he can take another crack next year at the NFL, he's going to push for a 1 year, right? Or maybe 2. But there's no way he does a 2 and an option unless he's completely at ease with being a CFLer for a very long time, maybe forever.
Or if they can get assurances that if something did come up, that he had an actual legit opportunity, that they would let him out of his...
go. Yeah.
Which seems to be a lot of
difficult.
CFL GMs are doing that now.
But you would let him out of the remainder of the contract if it's in the last year, right? Like let him go at Christmas time or January like they have been for some of these guys, so that they can go sign those futures contracts. But they were due to be free agents
True.
most of the time in a month in February anyway. Do you let a guy go who has another year plus?
Guess depends on that
Pretty
relationship
tough.
you've got.
Yeah, pretty tough. So anyway, your boy Chris Streveler, he's actually working out 3 teams, buddy.
Yeah.
He's gonna
I
stick.
see your list of teams.
He's gonna stick. Bucks, Arizona.
Yeah, none of them have
Miami.
quarterbacks. Oh no, one has a quarterback.
The Bucks have Jameis.
Yeah.
He just likes passing the other team as much as his own.
Well, sounds like Streveler.
But you integrate a guy like Streveler in, they need a little running back help, a little wildcat.
I just don't see it.
You never know. And a
Listen
guy
to
in
me now
Arizona-
and believe me later.
Yeah,
He's not going to make an NFL roster.
I think he might get a futures contract. Not saying he'll be there all year, but kick the tires. A guy like Kingsbury in Arizona, he's he's well known, hangs his hat on being a very inventive coordinator. Maybe he finds a way. And Miami's just desperate.
Yeah, well,
But who cares if they're desperate? Take their money.
I suppose. Get paid, young man.
Get paid, get paid. And Trey Roberson, this is the guy we got to be watching. He worked out. They wanted to sign him on the spot. Like I said last week, he's a converted quarterback. I'm not sure everybody knew that. Converted from quarterback to a corner. Nick Marshall.
Well,
Put together
quarterback's
some
usually
good.
most talented guy, and
Put together some pretty good tape. He's a pretty damn good football player.
for sure.
But it sounds like he's going to sit and wait. I think he's letting them all fight.
Nice problem. to
And
have.
it sounds like he's going to pick his spot. How often do you say that about a CFL or going south?
Not
That
very
they
often.
get to pick their spot.
Not very often.
This guy think he is Doug Bloody Flutie. I don't see him having his own cereal, but anyway. That's all we got for CFL.
That's more than most.
Well, XFL.
Woohoo!
Now, a little change.
Let's start with
They're starting out, kicking off February 8th. It's a 10-week season. Okay, 2 conferences. Top 2 make the playoffs on each side. So, fairly standard crap, right? Some of the uniforms looked all right. Did you guys see, what the hell team was it? Dallas. They have teal. It's teal. And I like some players on the Sharks, like Patty Marleau. Nobody looks tough in teal. You just
Nobody.
don't.
Yeah, it's pretty tough.
You don't. And if you look at, if you ever get a chance, Google the psychological sort of side of the game
colors.
with colors, right? Red and black and
yeah.
that kind.
Oh, yeah.
The worst color you can get
Teal.
is probably teal.
Yeah.
And then you
Yellow
could
is
name
better.
name your team something intimidating like the Ducks.
The mighty
Ducks. They weren't just ducks. They
See,
were
they're
mighty.
way more intimidating because they're mighty. Well,
They
they dropped
fly
the
in a
mighty.
V.
Yeah. Anything Disney scares nobody.
Right in the V.
Right in the V. But there are some guys, okay? And the reason we're talking XFLs, because if you're a football junkie, it's coming up, right? So to understand, they got some different rules and not as crazy as the last time around, but
So what are they doing differently this time around?
well, you can't kick an extra point. You have to go for an extra point from the 5, the 10.
Oh.
There's different yardages as to whether it's a 2, 3, 4 point play, right? So there's stuff like that, right? Kickoffs, instead of kicking off at the 35, they kick off at the 25. And you can't kick it through the back of the end zone. If you do, they get it automatically on the 35. Which is, pretty healthy field position.
Yeah.
But they want you to kick it between the end zone line and the 20.
Okay.
So they want that thing fielded. They want a return.
Okay.
And the punt rules are also adapted a little bit, also to have a return. So taking returners out of the game, I know part of the reason they took it out in the NFL is because of
Injuries.
injuries, but at the same time, it is an exciting play. And
It's
there are
very
guys,
exciting. Oh, yeah.
you know, Devin Hester and guys of that nature, you know, like they're legitimate weapons, and they were taken out of the game, right? And a good kick return, that can be exciting. Like it's
Can be
And game changing for sure.
and game changing. Also, they're changing their play clock, right, from 40 seconds down to 25.
So it's more hurry up.
Well, it's going to be a faster pace. And part of it is the reason they said they want to make some of these changes is to speed up the game and to ensure that no game is longer than 3 hours. They
have
don't
any,
want the long,
networks?
drag it out.
Do they have a network affiliation signed?
They have
contract?
some TV contracts. Maybe harder for us here in Canada to maybe access it all. But in this day and age, everything's online. Even average Joes like us.
Yeah.
So
Above average.
above average. I always forget the above average. But I think you two are above. I'm below, and it just averages out.
Oh, it
to
averages
a share.
to an equal average.
I like to be ordinarily average.
Nice.
So how long do you think this XFL
Well,
2.0 will last?
Here's the thing. Vince McMahon, and I mean, everybody can say what they want about Vince McMahon, and they always, you know, the cheesiness of wrestling. But I mean, there's hardcore wrestling fans. It's an athletic endeavor to do what those guys do. Some people slag it, but I mean, take it for what you want. He's a multi-billionaire. He sold some assets, let's put it that way, so that he had the funding to put into this venture. And Vince McMahon, with his pockets, it's not going to go the same way that the last couple of upstarts have gone. It's well funded. It's well backed. Right?
Okay.
So
'Cause he was
it's going to go for at
50-50.
least a year.
Because Vince McMahon, he was 50-50 in the first XFL, wasn't he?
I believe he was majority owner, like more than 50-50.
Okay, because I thought him and
But
Buddy
having the
Holland had seen some
funding
producing.
and having gone through all of that, I think he knew some of his hurdles, his mistakes, but he definitively has the cash in hand to make sure this whole first season goes.
Yes, deep pockets.
Yeah.
So that's part of it. That's a large part of why some of these other ones have failed. So, you know, people can say what they want about the XFL and its comeback. It may not be the best football or the worst football you see.
Well,
I
time
mean,
will tell.
exactly.
Time will tell.
But they're well funded. So, I mean, they've got some reputable coaches that are signed up for the 8 franchises, like Bob Stoops, June Jones, who former CFLer, right? He's in Houston. Kevin Gilbride, you know, New York Giants were kind of where he made his name. Jim Zorn is another big name. Mark Trestman, former CFL guy, right? So he's in Florida. Maybe he'll drop off some of them all dressed chips from Canada he's got. Sure he's got. Andy'll be happy. But there's some good coaches there. So having that, they've got all the major football markets covered in Florida, LA, New York, 2 teams in Texas, all football hotbeds. They've got an up-tempo system, right? Short games, 3 hours, but an up-tempo 25-second play clock to keep it entertaining.
Well, and that's for those that, you know, long for, you know, a shorter off season in NFL or college football. So
right.
Again, see if it lasts, see if it sticks. I don't know.
So the only thing that I see as being a bit of an issue is the fact that their season kicks off February 8th, meaning their training camp is starting very soon. So these CFL guys that have contracts that don't run out until February 15th,
oh yeah,
they're kind of missing the boat. And I mean, if you're in decent enough shape and relatively good health and you become a free agent, say January 15th, you could get in on that league and making a little more money, right?
So theoretically, a CFL player could play for the XFL.
I don't think they can.
Well, not if they're under contract.
If you're under contract with CFL, you can't play in the XFL.
Even if you're becoming a free agent on the 15th, right?
Okay.
They kick off February 8th. They're doing preseason games. So, you need to be there 2 to 3 weeks before that in order to get in on it. So I don't know if the XFL moves. I don't see the CFL moving on their dates.
Nope.
I don't see teams in the CFL releasing guys so they can go play there. Yeah. It's a little different when a guy goes to the NFL.
Yeah. You're going to the show.
He's going to cash in. You know he's going for the cash.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right? And you can't blame a guy.
XFL is not that.
Nope.
Right. So where does that leave these guys, right?
Even,
So is the XFL, and I believe the XFL contracts are supposed to run out before the NFL preseason kicks in. So some of those guys can be a little bit of a developmental league and they can get in on the NFL action, but they're not really, there isn't that accommodation made with the CFL and that transition. So maybe if they last multiple years, something may be done, right? Maybe they sign an agreement to do that. So we'll see. But also their draft was just last Wednesday. So it was kind of unique because they got all these players in there, right? So looking at it on Thursday, because I knew it was on Wednesday. Well, part of it was on Thursday also, but they did their draft in 5 phases. So all the teams were assigned a quarterback. So they all got a guy. And I don't know how they came up with that as to who got who, but they all got one guy to start with. And then the first phase of the draft was all offensive skill position players. So running backs, wide receivers, and another quarterback if you so chose, right? So there's a few different names in there that are, guys that kicked around the NFL or even have come to the CFL. And we'll talk about a couple in a minute. But the second phase goes ahead, and it was all the offensive line guys. So they all go through. So it was very well organized in terms of balance, I thought. So if you got one guy in there, like who maybe didn't do his homework or wasn't as current as he should have been, he can't really drop the ball. Right? So it was kind of to protect them from themselves potentially a little bit, I thought. The third phase was D-line and linebackers. Fourth was DBs. And then they had a fifth phase, which was basically pick whatever the hell else you feel you need, right? So it was a little different, but yeah, I kind of thought it was fairly unique. Cool. And I don't know if they're going to actually stick with that format going forward, but it's a different format from whatever else is out there. So something to think about. But a few players of note, though, in terms of CFL guys or ex-CFL guys or even guys that are on the rider neg list as of the 17th of December, the last time they released it. The LA Wildcats, they've got KD Cannon, former rider receiver, is on their roster. So if you're looking for if you happen, like you said, Ross had mentioned about the games and that kind of thing, right? So when you're watching a few of these teams, some of these names you might see and you'd be like, where the hell do I know that name? This is where you probably know them from. And there's a few other CFL related guys, but I just kind of searched out the rider ones because, well, let's face it, who gives a shit? They're the show.
Exactly.
Right? They're all that in a bag of chips. Andy Reid. LA Wildcats have KD Cannon playing wideout, so you may see him out there. The kid had some gears, so maybe on a kick return we'll see him do something. I don't know. But Marquise Williams was here as a quarterback with the Riders for a little cup of tea, or can of Pilsner, if you will, in this province. And he's on the New York Guardians, so watch for him. He's probably, I believe he wasn't their pre-selected quarterback, so he's probably the backup there. But also, 2 guys that I found that were actually on the Riders' neg list as of the 17th of December, like I said, they're both on the DC Defenders, is Trey McBride. He's a wideout, so there's one guy to watch for. And Donnell Pumphrey. Another guy. He's been around the NFL for a little while, but he's on the neg list, so we'll see. Maybe he looks horrible and we're like, yes, drop him from the neg list, never have to watch him. But hopefully he works out and then he maybe ends up here. So anyway, the neg lists are going to be very interesting to see the next round that they pop them out because they have to release their 10 guys. I'm kind of curious if you leave Pumphrey's name on it, and if you do you release it? It's like, oh yeah, I'm still waiting on him. He's killing it in the XFL. It's going to be hard to put together some of these lists. But anyway, that's all we got for football. Matt, do you want to have like a musical interlude or elevator music? Or
There was one thing you forgot to mention about the XFL, and that was Ocho Cinco.
Ocho Cinco, that's right. Ocho Cinco. You probably flashed a graphic and you're like, what's that asshole doing?
Probably.
Well, speaking of Ocho Cinco, what's that asshole doing? Well, he's 42 years old and he's going to try to make the XFL as a kicker. He's a former soccer player. He actually played a little bit of soccer, moonlighted, I think, with like a lower kind of team in North America here, but
Not the LA Galaxy.
not the LA Galaxy. No, he didn't bend it like Beckham. I was telling these guys a cool Beckham story earlier, but if any soccer stuff really comes up that's major that we're going to need to talk about, I'll tell you guys all that story. But anyway, his hope is at 42, he's trying out for the XFL, and say he makes it. Great on him, right? He's hoping it can segue him back into the NFL.
As a kicker?
As a kicker. He wants to make the NFL again, but this time as a kicker
At 42.
at 42. So even if he makes it, he would be 43 basically, or damn close.
For the love of the game.
Wide receivers.
Wide receivers come across
Comes
the
back
middle.
to our conversation
one
we
more
started
time.
with.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry I missed that, Maddie. My apologies. Don't hurt me.
You messed up the whole flow of the images.
On to the NHL.
Yeah.
NHL. Braden Holtby.
You like the Holtbys. He's a pending UFA, and I heard his name on the block so many bloody times. And the Caps decided outright that they're keeping him. They're keeping him for the stretch run. They have a young goalie there who's the future, but Holtby is a stud. And I think with the Caps being as good as they are, they're going to probably just have to let him walk in free agency, which is not an altogether common practice. But when you're on the top, you want to stay on the top, right? That's what she said.
I wish.
But they're going to keep him for another playoff run. So he's going to hit the free agent market, which is going to be completely scrambling. I think there's going to be a few teams that are going to be running for signing him. He's rumored to be looking for a deal much like Sergei Bobrovsky's in Florida. And Bobrovsky's making 7 years, $70 million. And he's a hair older. I believe he's 31-ish. 31, yeah. He's a little older than Holtby, but Holtby's 30. So if you're the Oilers, do you pay that kind of money? $10 million to a goalie?
No.
The other one is Colorado. Do you pay $10 million for a goalie? Another one was Calgary. Do you pay $10 million for a goalie? So he's going to have a number of suitors out there, I'm sure. But a little bit of digging, a little bit of thinking, and there's rumors of the Carey Price stuff going on, but there isn't one single goalie that makes over $10 million in the NHL and is on a playoff-bound team.
Well, it seems like that.
The top four guys in the NHL all make $10 million, and I believe there's, Bobrovsky being one of them, Carey Price being another. They're not on playoff teams. Like
That's
signing
valuable
a
cap
goalie
space,
for more than $8.5-9 million is pretty much the most, and even then you're stretched pretty.
Well, we
thin.
talked about that with just players in general,
Right.
That
There's
over 10 million. It's,
Nobody's won a Stanley Cup with a player on the roster who made more than $10 million to date.
It's got to be disruptive for the team. You know, just knowing, hey, that guy, that bum that's not performing is making 3 times as much as I am.
Yeah, well, if you get into the jealousy of it, I guess, but I mean, your teammates and I don't know. I think that's maybe what a good agent is maybe for, so you don't have to overthink that stuff.
Sure.
But it's got to be maddening. You're right.
Absolutely.
You know, because you see it all the time in your own workplace. It's like, holy crap, that dude makes the same money as me.
Do your job.
Who tied his shoes this morning? Holy shit
how did he
balls.
find the door?
Yeah. So it'll be an interesting dilemma, but I mean, Holtby also signing a deal like that for any number of teams could be actually a huge detriment to their future success. As good as he is, and you need a good goalie to win, you don't need a $10 million goalie to win.
No.
Can be baggage.
So
Just like you don't need a $45 million quarterback.
the Leafs are looking for a goalie. Can they fit another $10 million guy in?
No.
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 Well, he can't fight or body check either. He'd fit right in.
No.
In fact, Holtby being a Sasky boy, he might have the best couple of knuckles going. And in terms of the $10
Might be
million
the toughest guy on the
boys.
team if he was on the
Well,
Leafs
not
then.
the team, but I mean out of the $10 million paycheck club.
Yeah,
Right?
That's true too. The Leafs can afford it.
The 8-digit club.
Yeah.
Well, they're pretty much a Stanley Cup in their future is
Wow.
non-existent with that roster. If you follow the numbers.
If you follow the numbers. Yeah. And hearing, well, because our guest is such a Leaf fan, got to heckle him on it a little bit, but what are your thoughts on Kyle Dubas?
Who the hell's that?
The GM. Well, don't
The
play-
GM that's
don't
spending all
play
the
with
money on
me,
your
Ross.
players.
That's so.
No, but everybody calls this guy this wizard of a GM. He's currently out shopping for defensemen again because, well, shit, you haven't had one there since, well, who knows?
So
A
long ago.
long goddamn time. I was going to come up with an old school name, but I didn't want to.
You know, I'm still, stunned at the firing of the coach. However, they did kind of pick it up after the coach got fired.
They did,
Yeah, not lately.
but
then, they didn't do the St. Louis Blues trick, so I was kind of hoping for that.
well,
No.
but is Dubas the wizard everybody thinks he is? Is he a wizard in your book?
No.
No.
No, I don't even know who.
So
the
you're
hell-
not like a completely delusional
Oh.
Leaf fan.
Oh, hell no.
Are you sure you're a Leaf fan?
Hey, you need to be removed from the situation.
Usually a Leaf fan still has the Kool-Aid like around his lips.
No. Ignorance is bliss, man.
Okay. Anyway,
How do you think I've been happy all this time?
all the talk of him being this wonder kid on how to build a team. Who knew grossly overpaying everyone was the way to build a Stanley Cup winner. So
That's how the kids do it.
that's how the kids do it. Yeah.
Damn
As
millennials.
long as their social media's clicking.
You should take
Where's that
lessons
wide
from
receivers?
Harold Ballard, damn it.
Yeah, Harold Ballard. Shit. Squeeze two nickels together to make a quarter, that guy.
Everybody's fired.
So where
but
are we?
Wendell
We're
Clark.
Gerard Gallant.
Well, yeah,
Let's
can you
talk
believe-
Vegas.
can you
Another coach got
believe-
crushed.
Yeah, but did you see that one coming?
Not entirely, but it doesn't shock me because they weren't like they were a top end team like basically since day one, since their inception. They've been very good. So they haven't been very good this year.
They're 3 points out of first in the division.
Right, but that
In a
division's
shitty
only
division.
about 3 points from top to bottom spread, right? So I mean,
Top 5, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, they're still in the hunt, but they're not clicking like they were clicking, I guess.
But seems to be the thing to do these days. Is
Well, Marc-Andre Fleury being a little bit not in a good place right now with his current personal situation, right, that he's dealing with. It's got to affect you.
You would think
It's even
so.
got to affect you when he is playing because I don't think he's
That's what I mean.
clicking
Like
on all cylinders, right? So
how a coach after a year doesn't forget how to coach.
yeah, one would tend to think that. Is his message just old and they tune him out?
After they've
He
only
had their
been a
attention
team
span
for
for
3 years.
And I think maybe what it is just sending the rest of the team a message because I mean they went to the finals the first year in existence, so maybe they've got this culture of winning and
Well, they're trying to build it for sure.
and
if
maybe
not-
that just
yeah.
firing the coach sends a psychological message to the rest of the players because it really to me.
Yeah,
was
but
kind
even
of
more
necessary.
surprising to me is who they hired to replace him.
Yeah.
That's almost
Yeah,
more
so,
surprising than the
you know,
firing.
Gallant was the coach of the year in 17-18, right? So and rightly so. Like you said, he's a good coach, and I'm sure he hasn't forgot how. So, you know, they played a system that catered to the speed and skill that they put together for that team, right? So, you know, and they've added pieces over the last couple of years that really, you know, they essentially built an entire first line, you know, from the beginning to the end of last season. So, that being said, though, DeBoer, was he the right guy? Like, he's a good quality coach too, but they have some bad history.
Yeah.
And even the players, like, they're asking them and stuff like, you know, what are your thoughts? It's like, because things were said publicly that are kind of hard to take back, right? So, and having Gallant calling him a clown publicly last year probably doesn't
Doesn't help things, no. going to be a weird situation.
Because they did so well last year. Well, anyway, at the All-Star game, Gallant was due to
Yeah, he was
head
supposed to be
coach
the
a
coach.
team.
Yeah.
So John Scott actually tweeted out that he'd take his spot, but that didn't go anywhere. Good try, John. But anyway, yeah. So he's not going to do the All-Star game anymore, but really awkward situation. And with all the firings that have gone on, was that did that have to be the guy?
It was a surprise.
Todd McClellan's a pretty decent coach. I mean, they had other options. So, yeah, front office deciding that was the guy was kind of a bit of a shocker to me. So, anyway, moving on. Are we on Habs now? You want to talk Habs, Matty?
Sure.
I have your permission?
Let's move to Habs.
Okay.
Show's feeling really long.
Mark Bergevin is not taking calls for Price or Weber.
So he says.
Does he owe it to both of those guys to trade them to a contender so they can contend for a Stanley Cup?
No.
No? You don't think they should get the Ray Bourque?
No.
Weber,
I didn't like the Ray Bourque.
I actually thought the Ray Bourque thing was a classy move, but you have to, as a team, and I'm not a Habs fan, you have to protect your interests, so I have no dog in the hunt.
Well, they've got a major rebuild there that I think needs to happen. And there's no way you can rebuild with a 34-year-old defenseman or Carey Price at $10+ million a year.
True.
So if you got to deal them.
So then you deal them because it's better for your team, not
True.
because you're doing a favor for
But do
an
you
old
deal them to
dude.
a team that's
You deal them to whoever's going to give you the most for the players that's going to make your team not be shitty.
you don't try to put them in a situation that gives them that opportunity?
Well, the last time Montreal traded a star goaltender, it worked out quite well.
Well,
Not for Montreal.
Colorado did kick the tires on Price, and I heard they were gunned down, so they've since moved on. Lundqvist and then, Gorgiev, or however you say his name. Damn, Russian names kill me, man. I can't get them right. But they've since moved on to other guys. So, I don't know. I kind of thought that Shea Weber being 34, Bourque did it a little later than that.
Yeah.
If he's there a couple more years and they keep denying that they need to rebuild.
Yeah, but it's
maybe
not like
then.
Shea Weber is a lifelong cab.
True. So,
Yeah, how long has he been?
5 years?
yeah. So, Price may be more so the
Yeah,
case, right?
maybe.
So,
Price is
I don't
a
know.
franchise.
I think they just got to embrace the rebuild and pull the trigger and make it happen and get those guys somewhere
Trade him to
else.
the
So,
Leafs.
Yeah. Maybe. They need a $10 million goalie. So,
Yeah, we got to roll things along.
okay, Patty Kane hit his 1,000 points. Dougie Hamilton broke his leg.
We're going to be late.
Oh. Did you guys see Dougie Hamilton's leg?
No, I didn't.
Freaking gross, man. That was gross.
It was a bad one.
Yeah, he's done for the year. Career year, broken leg. Feel bad for the guy. Akeem Alou came out. He's talking about Bill Peters. I don't know if you guys saw the little interview with Ron McLean. You didn't miss much. But
From the sounds of it,
I took
it's a little...
one little thing away from that I took, and I don't know about any of our viewing audience, but if you watch that interview, and I encourage you to watch it, you tell me if you get the sense that Alou's intentions and his focus on inclusion in the sport is genuine and true. Like that is what he was really trying to get out there in terms of a message, right?
Okay.
And Ron McLean and the CBC and the way they spin it and the way they preview the interview and everything else, it really, really, really made me feel that it wasn't about a lose message.
Right.
They tried to spin the message into how big of an issue racism is in hockey, right? And the media and the CBC in general kind of want to go after the racism in hockey idea or factor or whatever, but it's this complete social justice warrior crusade, more so by CBC.
Oh, that's their stock in trade lately.
Right. And I mean, Alou has been in the paper, in the press quite a bit, right? And saying what he said and coming out and saying what he said. And it's all valid stuff. I have no issue with that whatsoever, right? Like, there's no room for it. But his message that he's trying to get out and the way he talks about it just left a feeling with me that he really, really is focused on inclusion in the sport, right? And just giving kids an opportunity from all walks of life. That's his focus. And they're trying to twist it a little bit and push their own social agenda. They're actually using him a little bit, was my feeling.
Yep.
It's the Don Cherry component of...
Well, and of all the guys, like Ron McLean, and I don't call him Ron McLean much anymore. Usually when I refer to him, it's Judas. But he totally bought into the whole thing and is very much...
He wants to keep his job.
Well, but he's very much now on this social justice warrior crusade. He's done lots of good stuff for hockey, don't get me wrong.
Oh, absolutely.
But he's really seemingly took up his shield and sword and went to the social justice warrior crusade, full stop. And I feel like CBC is using a little bit for their own agenda.
Well, that's what the media does.
And I don't want to put words in his mouth, but that's got to piss you off a little bit if you're that guy. It was hard enough to say what he said and come out and do what he did and deal with all of that. And then to see somebody use you for their own agenda over pushing or helping you with yours has got to be a bit of a chop your ass moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I watched it actually 3 times and first time I'm like, no, I get this weird feeling. I think, okay, got to nail it. See it again. Let's see. By the 3rd time, I'm like, they're using him. And then I really felt bad for the kid. If you didn't already feel bad for Akeem Alou, watch it 3 times. And if you get that same feeling I did, you really feel bad for him. So anyway, that was just a couple of thoughts I had about that. So a couple other little things I want to kind of go over. Wes McCauley at the beginning of the Senators and the Flames game. Did you see him kick the 2 centermen out?
So
put
the brothers,
Kachuk boys
so
in?
the brothers could face off.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah,
and the family went nuts. They loved it.
Yeah, that was
and
good.
did you see they had like 40 Kachucks in attendance to watch the game?
Nice.
How much was Drew Doughty would have cried like for days if he had to be in that same building with that many Kachucks. The old man probably could still bully him too. So
Probably.
he was a piece of work. My kind of player. But anyway, OVIE, 9th all time, 202 behind Wayner
With a bullet.
Wow.
with a bullet.
Wow.
But he's
4 more years.
34 years old.
He could do it.
So I did the math.
4 years.
He can get to 180 goals if he does 40, 40, 30, 30, 20, 20 over the next 6 years and plays till he's 40. And it's all plausible. Like it's no,
I think he could.
it's not unrealistic numbers is more my point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, but 40, 40 the next 2, 30, 30 the next 2, and 20, 20 is 180. So he's 22 goals behind him. I think he can exceed all of those numbers
For sure.
and get there. I think we are we're going to lay witness to the impossible, and somebody's going to beat a Wayne Gretzky all-time scoring record in some way, shape, or form. You
We'll
like that
see.
one drop for color?
Not sure if it'll be in our lifetime, but
In 6 years, man.
No,
In
I
6
think it's going to
years.
happen.
He's going to pass him for all-time goals.
No,
So
I think it's going to happen.
have you ever seen a guy, and I mean, you can look through clips, but have you ever seen a guy, not just when OV scores how happy he is, do you ever see a guy so happy when somebody else scores too? Like he sellies harder than the guy who scored the goals sometimes. It's pretty cool, but he genuinely loves to score goals and it shows and his numbers are going to back it up. So, I mean, good on him, man.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Good on him. So, and the other one is the Leafs are looking for D.
No shit.
No shit. I don't even want to talk about the Leafs.
I don't either. We
Yeah,
should move
yeah,
on
let's-
to
But I know
something
Ross
else.
is a Leaf guy, but
We'll move on.
moving on.
Moving on.
You don't feel like crying in a public forum, or can't
What,
blame
this is
you.
Public?
Yeah, well, we put it out to the public. Let's talk UFC. Speaking of fighting to do anything, much like the Leafs defense, let's talk about the UFC. We all picked last week.
Yep, I was wrong.
You picked Cowboy. Maddie picked.
Cowboy.
Pick Cowboy.
Say it louder.
Aye.
Say it louder.
I said I picked Cowboy.
Oh, there we go. We got it on record. I picked Connor. But not that Cowboy was a bad pick, because he's legit. But holy shit, 40 seconds, guys. 40 seconds.
And a lot of beating in 40 seconds.
Yeah.
He made it look like John Scott beating on Phil Kessel. Like, over before it started, essentially.
You gotta like it when the highlight reel is the fight.
The fight.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't even show clips. It's one clip.
Right
We're
there.
done. Moving on. So I just couldn't believe, because Connor had said he had some new tricks that he'd been working on and stuff, and you're kind of like, oh yeah, well, the new tricks.
Yeah, well, he did.
Throwing that shoulder and breaking a dude's nose was pretty goddamn cool. I'm gonna have to watch
It's
out
now in
next time
everybody's training regimen.
Next time I piss my kids off, and then it's like,
You're just
okay,
gonna elbow. You're gonna shoulder
cool? Let's
crush
hug it
your
out.
kid's face.
And then he
Let's
just
hug it out.
whack. My kids know they break my nose. It doesn't mean a whole lot, because I've broke it 6 times now. So what's 7? Big deal.
Well, yeah, might as well.
Now I have to break yours back. No, I wouldn't do that. But 40 seconds. So the part of the question we had though too was Connor coming back for a payday? Was he coming back because he was hungry? I think it was both. He looked pretty hungry there.
He was way
looked
more
prepped.
hungry than I thought he was going to be.
Yeah, for a guy who was super relaxed going into the fight, who's never relaxed going into the fight. He's usually talking shit.
Yeah, I think he maybe turned over a new leaf.
I think, and possibly, for sure, possibly, and I don't doubt that, but I also think he had a higher level of respect for Cowboy than he does for a lot of the guys he fights.
That's certainly
So
possible.
it's pretty hard to do all the theater when you actually respect your opponent. So we'll see. We'll see what he does.
when
at-
when
yeah.
Khabib
Well,
happens. See how quiet he is then.
so that all being said, and speaking of Khabib, in his first fight, right, there was an $80 million purse is what was rumored for Connor in the fight, or in this fight. But Connor's looking for paydays, but I think he's looking to rebuild his name, though, too, in the sport. So the good news is there's no lack of lineup of guys he could fight
Nope.
and make a purse. The way he knocked out Cowboy, people want to watch him fight no matter who he's fighting. Really.
Yep.
But the size of the purse is somewhat dependent still on who he's going to be playing or squaring off against, right? So his coach actually came out and said that he'd like to see him fight at in the welterweight division, so Masvidal or Usman. But Khabib is the fight Dana White said he wants to make next
It'll be the biggest fight ever.
in terms of gate receipts, everything. It will be. But here's the thing: Connor wants to fight 3 to 4 times this year. He's ready to fight if he said he'd come out fairly unscathed from this one, and it looks like he did.
It's very unscathed.
His
yeah.
toes may hurt. That's about it. So he would be ready possibly in March or
Yeah,
April
but
to
Khabib's
fight again.
not going to be ready till the fall.
Right. Well, Khabib's fighting April 18th against Tony Ferguson, so
Right.
he's going to need a couple of months.
Well, and then they said something about because of religious something he doesn't
Ramadan.
fight. Yeah, he doesn't fight till that's over. So doesn't that take it to the fall?
Roughly.
Something like that.
You think he'd skip Ramadan for
Nope.
150 million?
Nope.
I don't think he would, but it'd be
Nope.
nice to think he could maybe do that. But
No, but right after it, he'll be ready
right.
to go.
So
Gave up.
my thought is everybody's talking Khabib. That's the fight.
well, of course, that's the
But
fight.
how long does Connor want to wait? He doesn't
No,
want to wait.
he'll probably have at least one fight in between.
So that being said, the fight in between, who do you want to fight? Do you want to fight Usman? Not the name. It'd be a good fight. Masvidal would be a pretty good fight, a bit of a name, right?
Yeah.
But the gate receipts from a Mayweather too, which they said is in the works. They're talking.
Yeah, there's supposed to be an announcement
He
possibly by the end of the week, I heard.
Right, but he made 80 million and Mayweather made 275 million the first time they fought.
Yeah. It's
That
insane
goes
money.
up.
Yep.
He cracks 100, maybe even into that 120 type money.
Is it going to be another boxing match,
Yeah.
or is Mayweather going to step into the octagon this time? That'll never happen.
You think Cowboy ended quick? He'd have no trouble finding Mayweather either, because there'd just be a little trail of piss to wherever he's standing. He'd kill him, like almost literally. I'm not even joking. It's not fair. So,
Nope.
But I kind of make the comparison of Connor to a guy like Donald Trump. I watch the fight, and you have all these people who are just like, I freaking hate Connor and his mouth and everything else, and he's kind of got that Trump sort of thing going on in my mind, right? People hate him because he's so brash, and it rubs you the wrong way. But kind of like Trump, he goes and gets the results still too, right? Economic numbers, everything else, Trump kills it. Not that I'm like sitting here campaigning for the guy, but at the same time, well, it kind of sounds like I am, but the numbers do back it up. So he still he has the skills, and I don't care what anyone says about Connor's mouth. You can run your mouth if you can back it up.
If you can back it up.
And he backed it up.
Muhammad Ali kind of set that template.
Yep.
True.
Absolutely.
And he did. He would walk the walk, right?
Yeah.
So the world works on results. I tell my kids
Now,
this all
running
the
your
time.
mouth and throwing a wheeler through a bus are two completely different things, or punching out an old man in a bar.
Well, but
Well,
we're in the day and age
Those are
where
different things, but I guess if
Any
you want to
press is
compare him,
good
if you
press,
want to
Kyle.
compare him to Trump, there's a whole other list of things we could talk about.
Well,
But-
it's not
whole
orange.
nother show.
But the show has
There is orange
already
in the
been
Irish
18
flag.
hours long, so
Well, Mayweather wants to do a rematch. I say do it. Make some money. He's in shape. He's hungry.
oh, for sure.
Mayweather's older. He'll train a little different maybe. I think he can beat Mayweather. I really do. I really, really do. But interesting fight, 40 seconds. Fight Connor. Khabib fights on April 18th. Book something for September
Yep.
and let her rip.
Vegas, baby.
Vegas, baby. Yeah, it'll be great.
Actually, they were saying something like maybe the O2 in London, like that big of a place
wow. Yeah.
for like Vegas. I guess the stadium should be open, so they could do it in the big stadium in Vegas.
Let's do it in Zimbabwe or South Africa. Or,
Oh.
The Thriller.
Hey?
Thrilla in Manila.
yeah,
the
you
Rumble
said
in
it,
the
Muhammad
Jungle.
Rumble in
Ali.
the jungle.
Yeah, they wouldn't get. Do you know what the average ticket price of the Mayweather fight was?
Couple $100,
The gate receipts.
$500.
I saw the number for the gate receipts, and I'm like, holy crap, that's like, it was millions. It's in the millions, right? So you're like, how big's the arena? 16,200.
Huh.
Okay, let's do the math.
Yeah. What the hell?
$4,400 per ticket was the average.
So how do you feel about paying that kind of money and having it last 40 seconds? It's not even going to like 10
Which is
rounds.
why I don't go to those events
big
or pay
rip-off.
for them. When
Or the
I saw
pay-per-view.
Tyson
Oh my
beat
God.
that guy in whatever it was, 12
12
seconds,
seconds.
Yeah.
and I paid for that fucking thing, I'm like, I am
You're
never,
raging.
I am never doing that again.
Exactly. Well, it's a ripoff, man.
Yeah.
All good.
Moving on
Moving on. Let's talk Major League Baseball. Let's just
very shortly.
very shortly.
Well, there's not much to talk
Well,
about.
not a whole lot, but I mean, Cora resigned from the Red Sox now with this whole fallout of the Astros fiasco.
He's in deep trouble.
He was the central figure in a lot of this. So there's rumors now of him being lifetime suspended, and I am looking at it as a bigger cheating, bigger character issue than Pete Rose.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pete Rose is out for life. Cora should definitely be out for life.
And Pete Rose should get to come back just so it's worse on Cora.
Let Pete Rose manage the Red Sox.
Baseball is kind of built on cheating over the years.
They've
just
got a
don't
bad
get
rap
caught.
for it. Yeah,
You know, I mean, Pete Rose should be in the Hall of Fame, period.
yeah, totally agree.
Ty Cobb was a terrible human being. Why is he in the Hall of Fame? You know, like, there should be a wing of the Hall of Fame for just, you know,
It'd be most of the
young
hall.
cast.
Well,
It'd be most of the cast, but I
Well,
mean,
and guys like Roger Clemens, Barry Bonds, they're
Yes.
all up on
Yes.
the docket now. We're going to hear very shortly as to who's going into the Hall of
And they'll
Fame
get
this
in.
next class. They're all up there. They all made it to the last
That's right.
kind of round where they're getting picked through, and you're going to see some of these guys from the steroid era starting to sneak in. So,
yeah. Before drug testing, like Tom Seaver back in the 70s, they'd get all tweaked up, and then they'd get rained out, and it would piss them off because now they're all tweaked up and they
Who-
can't.
Who was it that pitched the no-hitter on LSD? Name escapes me.
That I do not know.
Yeah, he's an Oakland A. Shit.
Oh, Vita Blue?
No.
I saw.
But
Vita
it
Blue
happened,
play.
right? But I mean, yeah, all tweaked up. You just
You're
made
all
me think of
tweaked
that,
up.
right?
Yeah,
Like,
no place to
yeah,
go.
who does LSD and can do anything? Never mind pitch a perfect game.
Yeah, no
But
kidding.
That's
the
impressive.
allegations of having the buzzers under players' uniforms, and there's been a number of pictures of guys with their shirts undone, or even taking their outer layer off and doing interviews, and they've got little bandages and things that are showing, and
Yep.
you're kind of like, is there any other way that you could do it? There's really no other way. That's pretty. I was trying to think with all
That's
the
a
technology
pretty-
in the world.
It's a pretty solid way of doing it, though, man.
You couldn't do an earpiece or anything. Like it'd
You know,
be
'cause
visible,
You'd see the earpiece.
right?
Well, they make some earpieces pretty tiny, but yeah. But that's under your uniform. Your
So
one
those-
buzz for a
those
slider,
buzzers
two
were just
buzz
taped
for
to
a
their chest. It
fastball.
wasn't like a vibrating
No.
cock ring or some crazy.
That'd be
Hey,
hard to hit the ball
when the
after
guy's
that, though.
cups jumping around, you're like, he's cheating. Takes balls to cheat, son. Do you take their World Series banner down and vacate the World Series?
It's almost getting to that point.
Question. Well,
Because there's no way you can cheat on that level
Yep.
without so many people being involved.
No, I agree.
Obviously, the management,
They were in.
they were in
Well,
on it.
yeah, management,
Absolutely.
coaches, players, they all had to be
Everything.
involved.
So even if their owner doesn't know, or maybe even for some weird reason, their GM with the Astros did get his ass, handed to him. He's got.
There's
his
no
walking-
way that they wouldn't
walking
know.
papers. But I mean, so you've got fundamentally, it's an entire organization. They're in on the joke?
Yeah.
Not that it was
By
funny,
far-
I guess,
by
but
far worse.
do they vacate
than
that World
anything
Series?
Pete Rose ever did.
they're
Yes.
all guilty.
yes.
I say yes.
Yep.
I don't know
nothing
why
will
they're
change.
not.
Nothing will change unless somebody gets something like that taken
But
away.
winning a championship is the ultimate sign of a team accomplishment and something that you've earned together.
Right, but they
You
didn't.
cheated together.
Yeah.
So you've earned sweet FA.
Yeah.
Vacate it. Now, if you vacate it, do you give it to the Dodgers?
Nope.
Nope.
No, it just
it's there with no winner.
no
Okay.
winner.
You wouldn't give it to the Dodgers because there's been some talk in and around LA.
No, because then
Well-
you have to start looking back. Okay, who did the Astros beat to get to the World Series, and then
Retrospective hypotheticals.
yeah,
Then.
Right.
You can't go back in time and change the outcome, but you can take away
Wow,
the
we're-
reward for what you didn't deserve.
people are trying to go back right
There's
now
no
and
World
rewrite
Series.
history.
This is no different than trying to say the Expos would have won the World Series in 1987
Exactly.
without a shortened season.
Or 94 with the lockout.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
shortened
94.
Yeah, exactly. But there is talk.
Yeah.
Dodgers, LA, not the Dodgers organization itself, but there's people in and around LA, prominent sports writers, etc., that are saying
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
it should come to us. And it's like, wait, you guys didn't win anything,
No, you
though.
didn't win.
I know you played against cheaters, but you didn't actually win. So
Exactly.
you can wipe your ass with a silver medal. Famous words from the town I grew up in. Another time, another story.
Until next week.
Until next week. But
Well, it's been a really long show today, but it's been a good show.
there's
Not
lots
that
to
bad.
talk
It's
about.
been about an hour and 43.
Well, let's cut her off then.
crap.
I got to
We're late.
finish this
Little
drink.
show. These boys got rehearsal to go for, so they can be tip top on their gig on Friday that
Yeah,
everybody's
where's
going
your
to
gig,
at the
Ross?
Turvey Center,
And
right?
that's already
It's
been
at,
canceled.
The Revival Room.
The revival
Friday
room.
night Revival Room.
Oh, it's Revival.
Revival Room.
Right on. That's like a real gig. That's where people go to actually watch the band.
Yes.
Right on, guys.
Well, it should be really good because you guys are top quality musicians and put on a top quality show. So,
Yeah.
name of your band was,
Smoke break.
and they're at the revival room this weekend.
On Friday night,
Friday.
Get your popcorn ready.
and it's a good place.
It'll be a show.
Support
anyway.
local music.
Yes.
Anyways,
We're gonna sign it off.
we're the Above Average Joes. I'm Kyle.
I'm Heath.
He's Ross. And Matt back in
Matt.
the bunker. And we'll see you next week. Possibly live. News to come.
News to come.
Laters.
Laters.